highway. Welcome to Foregone Trails. My name's Tyler. Let's talk about this 1969 Jeepster Commando. I've done a number of rigs I dig, and there's no rig I dig more than my Jeepster. It's a 1969 Jeepster Commando. I've owned it for probably 10 years-ish, give or take. I don't know, it all kind of blurs at this point in my life, but I've owned it for a while. I bought it completely bone stock, really boring Jeepster. We actually drove it from Oklahoma all the way to Nevada when it was in its stock form. Since then, I was like, you know what? Stock Jeepsters are cool, but you know what's cooler? Lifted Jeepsters. And then I was like, you know what's cooler? Jeepsters are lockers. Then from there, we just kept growing, and now it's snowballed into this. And there's more in the future, but for now, I wanted to show you where we're at as it currently sits. All right, here we go. Under the hood. It's pretty straightforward. I had some questions about the motor and if it was stock. Well, it's a hard question to answer, guys, because really it's like stock-ish. It's a Buick 231 even fire. So these originally came with a Buick 225 odd fire motor, but I swapped it out for a little bit later model. This is actually the third iteration of this motor. The first one had some issues, the 225, so I switched it to a 231 even fire. That one had some issues, so I found another one rebuilt, 100 bucks. Pretty good deal. Here, come on. Now, let's get this off. I want you guys to see the whole glory. We don't need an air cleaner taking up all the space. The cool thing about these Buick 231s, this, like I said, this is an even fire, so what's nice with it is on the odd fire motor, the timing, the distributor, something weird, I don't know how to explain it. It's an odd fire. So at a computer to run fuel injection, there's a lot more complicated moving parts to do that. But for me, with the even fire, I was able to install this Holley Sniper 4-barrel fuel injection. So, I mean, this is great. I have all the tuning capabilities. I currently have it set up with an HEI distributor, and so that doesn't control timing. It's still vacuum advanced, pretty like a carburetor would be, but the Holley Sniper actually controls the fuel and air ratio, and so I don't have to do any tuning with that. That makes it really nice for me. I really didn't want to mess with learning how to tune a carburetor, doing all the off-roading, lots of stuff. We went back a few years ago and went to the Rubicon, and with that, I knew I didn't want to be dealing with elevation changes. Here in Oklahoma, it's a lot lower than it is at the Rubicon, and so I felt like fuel injection was a must-have. I do have all the things to do a timing control on this, so I'm really excited to hopefully get that done and get like a formal tune on it at some point. That's been a bit of an issue right now, is it doesn't always want to idle right. I think some of the mixture, the ratio, the different pieces aren't the way they should be, so I think a proper tune will solve that. But you know, budgeting, all the other things, well, eventually I'll get there. For the most part, kind of sort of stock, but not really. The block's still the same. I've got some headers on it, some short tube headers, GM, single wire, alternator, great output. Overflow can, that's just pretty boring stuff. Battery, pretty boring stuff. Radiator, I had a fan shroud here. If you look really closely, you can see a little bit of an outline here, a few bolts. That was where the fan shroud went. A few trips back, I went to Disney, and the fan decided that it found the shroud. That's because the passenger engine mount needs some help. It's a little tired, a little worn out, and the motor started twerking, found this twerking. All right, so engine compartment, here you go. That's the engine. Nobody asked, but I'll tell you. Up here, I've got Hydro Boost brakes. I originally had vacuum brakes. I went ahead and switched those over to Hydro Boost. They just seem to work and grip a lot better, activate. The Hydro Boost has been amazing since I've installed it. So Hydro Boost. With that, I then needed to go ahead and change out all of the hoses for it. And so what I did is I actually installed, I don't know if you're gonna see this or not. So this really cool mount from Brennan's Garage allowed me to install a later model power steering pump. And with that, that actually allowed me a dedicated input and output and all the things for the Hydro Boost brakes. So with the dedicated actual pump and mount from Brennan's Garage, I was able to then run a PSC power steering pump. This reservoir, it's a dedicated reservoir up here, and that allowed for additional fluid. I didn't have to tee off any of the returns. It's worked really nicely so far, kept everything really cool. Steering has not been an issue with the 35s. In front of that, this is a wiper fluid container. Not really that exciting, but you know, the wiper fluid works. Oh, an Aruga horn. Aruga. Got one of those. That's neat. There you go, guys. That's the engine compartment. So is it a stock motor? Yes, no, kind of, sort of. It fits in there. It was the same size and dimension and things as a 225, but it's a 231 now. So now you've seen the engine compartment. I also had a few questions about what gear ratio I'm running in the axles. I'm running a 456 gear set. Well, actually, let's just talk about the axles in general. Come on in. So if we look under here, these are actually FJ60 axles that have been narrowed down to 56-inch wheel mounting surface in the front and the rear. Originally, I bought them because they just bolted right in, especially up front. Everything actually just bolted exactly into the stock location, which is awesome. And the front had an electric stock Toyota Land Cruiser FJ80 center section. So they have a 9.5-inch ring gear, really super beefy, really awesome axles, electric e-lockers. I mean, it was really cool to put in at the time. Would I do it again? Maybe not. I've got a whole nother video on that, but either way. So with that, that's the axle here. So these are the FJ60. Again, it's been narrowed down, has a little bit of a truss here on the long side tube. Some of the other little fun things, I did install high steer because of the spring over axle. So with the spring over axle, that means that these leaf springs here used to be underneath and now they're actually over the axle. That then created some issues here with the steering. And so what I did is I actually installed some high steer steering arms. So I don't know if you can see those, Caleb, hopefully. So these are the high steer steering arms and they just bolted right in, and then upgraded to the FJ80 tie rod ends, which are way beefier, all custom, really heavy wall steering, way up out of the way, never had any issues. The other really kind of trick thing that I did with these up front is that originally the FJ60s came with a bolt-on, pressed-on brake rotor. And so what I did is I changed to IFS hubs, and then that allowed me an extra 3-inch track width. So now these are 59-inch wheel mounting surface up front, a little bit wider. The rotors just slide over, really upgraded brakes, so heavy duty brakes. Really the front end's pretty nice. The only issue I've ever had with these is that I broke a burr field. But other than that, no issues up front. The axles have been really strong, really big ring gears, really more than this Jeep would probably ever need or see as far as the way that I drive it. The only other thing I did up here, went ahead and installed a steering box brace. So you can see it just runs from here over to the frame. It was a modified CJ brace. So that holds all this in place, but I don't know if it would ever move either. When it comes to the steering, this is actually a bigger box, a big bore Saginaw box. And so plenty of fluid going through that. It's been really nice. No issues or complaints there either. There you go. There's the front axle. So quick overview. FJ60 axles with IFS hubs on the outside, extending, making it 59 inches wide, wheel mounting surface. Been really good, really heavy duty, high steer arms, a little bit of steering box support, custom Saginaw with a big bore box. There you go, that's the front end. Moving back, let's go. I have mirrors. Nice. I also put my logo on the door. You're welcome. Let's hop in. For on the interior, I have Corbeau seats. These are suspension seats, really nice, extremely comfortable. They made the leaf springs feel like not as much leaf springs, but definitely still feel like leaf springs. The other thing people have asked me about is actually these retractable harnesses. So it's actually a 3-point harness that attaches down at the frame, and then I have it attached to the roll cage out back. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. So it has a little retractable mechanism here that will lock up like a traditional seatbelt would, but then they come through the seat here like a traditional 5-point harness. So that's really fun. I like that because it allows me to then move around and reach as I need to, but my seat belts are gonna keep me safe and secure at any point. When it comes to the dash, I wanted to keep it as original and stock looking as possible. And so I have a cutout here. I can't remember which Jeepster guy provides this, but really straightforward with the gauges, just a GPS driven speedometer, 4-in-1 gauge over here with a tack up top. That works really nice. All the stock gauges are here. I went ahead and added an air compressor and a light bar switch into it where the defrost went. I have a Summit heater underneath. Again, it's pretty straightforward stuff. In the middle, I did a radio delete. So we'll look here. And this is actually gonna be my front and rear locker. And then here, I had a line lock installed. Now, the line lock was awesome. It worked really well because I was able to push the brake, hit the switch, and my front brakes locked up like an e-brake would, which was really great. Now, I've gone through 2 of them and they, for some reason, keep shorting out or something's happening where they're not holding pressure. So I'm gonna be moving back to a traditional style cable e-brake for the rear. I might try to figure out how to get this fixed at some point, but if not, that switch will be open hoping for something. My Holley Sniper control system is right here. 32-inch adjustable steering column, tilt column, so I can do all the adjustments. Caleb, you're probably so annoyed. You're like, what the hell is this guy doing? Let's see, kept the stock dash pad. That's pretty cool, I guess. 6-point cage with some stanchions up front to help support that. LED light bar for the interior on a few places. The other thing, I did a full video on this so you guys can watch that. I get a lot of people really like the headliner. I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. It helps keep the sound down. I just really thought it was kind of fun to do something a little different. That's what I've installed in here. And let's see. Oh, this is the pride and joy here. Ammo can center console with a couple cup holders. They light up. Look at that. See that? Red light up center console cup holders. There you go, boys and girls. So on this side, I went ahead and did some body installed rock sliders. Well, on both sides. On this side, I found them. There. Yeah. So that's on the repair list at some point to go ahead and fix that. Moving back a little bit, I went ahead and installed these Safari soft top sides. These Safari soft tops allow me to remove them quickly, leave it open air feeling most of the time, but when I want to, I'll have these installed. So days like today, where it's a little bit colder, a little bit windier, didn't want to get mud, I keep them installed. It's been really nice. The other thing I did with these is back here, I went ahead and raised the lower wheel wells. They're raised about 4 inches taller than stock and pushed back about 1.5 inches. So that kind of keeps the cool stock looking lines of the Jeepster while allowing me a lot more clearance for the 35-inch tall tires. Another fan favorite that I found is the turbines. Look at these boys. Clean up. Yeah, there you go. A lot of people love the classic look of these turbine wheels, and I've got to agree, they're pretty slick. Let's see, what else? In the rear suspension, I actually installed Ford Explorer springs. The reason I did that is that then pushed that rear axle back about 1.5 inches that I needed to align with the rear wheel wells, and that gave me a little bit better clearance for those tires to get all the travel. And so to do that, I built these shackle boxes back here, and so they mount in the stock location and then reinforced up top with an adjustable bracket here, so then I can kind of mess with the shackle angle as needed, or if I change out these springs to a different length spring, I should be able to get the correct shackle angle with the way these boxes are designed. I used to have a full-blown tire carrier back here. That created a lot of weight, a lot of issues, so I went ahead and modified that for just a really simple slimline tube bumper here. Not a whole lot to it, just some 1.75-inch DOM tubing, some recovery points, a couple rock lights installed, receiver hitch. Here, I went ahead and installed some additional tubing to protect these quarters in case I come down directly on them. Hopefully that'll help keep those from crinkling up. Stock taillights, stock tailgate, everything else in the back's pretty stock. Let's look at one last little piece here. So in the back, this is usually what it looks like when I'm out on the trail. This here is a fridge freezer slide. So my fridge freezer actually will fit here when I need it, but this is such a short trip, I don't have it out today. This is all my camera gear attached instead. I have a few Craftsman boxes that I just hold in place. My trash bag, trusty trash bag there. Clean up. You guys make sure if you're out on the trails, pick up more trash than you bring in. That's important. So that's what I do. Trash bag, all my air tools. I've got soft shackles here, kind of all the things. Over here, I went ahead and built a custom box and then remote located a Smitty built compressor that's run off the switch up front. So then that runs my ARB compressor for the rear. That's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. All that runs into a valve block that then runs all the compressor. I can also air my tires off that same compressor. Pretty straightforward. I also sometimes carry, you can see up front, I carry a power tank just so I can go ahead and air up quicker with the CO2 instead of the air compressor on those really cold days or days I'm just really dying to get off the trail. Got some simple speakers, you know, running the back. Overall, it's a pretty straightforward build. Only things I really haven't covered, so I've got the Buick 231 up front. Behind my Buick 231, I have an SM465 transmission with a granny low gear. That mates to a Dana 300 transfer case, which really gives me a great crawl ratio. And then in the back, what's really cool with these axles that I didn't mention is that these are actually full float. and so all of these pieces come out and that axle shaft would come right out. Works really nicely. So the only other questions I had, where does it leak from? Well, the real question is, where does it not leak from? If we're talking rain, there's this spot. This leaks here, this general area of openness. There's a few areas up here that it'll kind of leak from because I haven't siliconed up these rails. If I roll up these windows, there's a little bit of a gap here that it would probably leak from. In regards to fluids, the motor doesn't leak, the transfer case doesn't leak, the axles don't leak. The transmission leaks like, what leaks a lot? Gosh, I don't know, man. Like, we throw one of those, like slap it, like the transmission leaks so bad. So that definitely leaks. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I had some questions about caster, degrees, whatever. I don't know. It's just kind of been where it's been set. I haven't checked it. I can try to check it, but it's been working really great. The alignment works really good. I have no issues driving 65 down the highway with it, other than the transmission. This thing's amazing. It goes all kinds of places. It handles really well. I'm really happy with it. There's a few things I would like to change. I would like to change to a 5-speed transmission so I can get a little bit better highway speeds out of it, maybe install a doubler. I would like to update the leaf springs to a 3 and 4 link suspension design so that it'll ride a lot better on the rough stuff. But overall, I'm super happy with this thing. It handles really well. It goes where I want it to. I've really enjoyed building it over the years and hopefully enjoyed learning a little bit more about the Jeepster itself. Thanks for watching.